Welcome to the Real Board Loft. I'm Trip Foreman. Today we got a special guest with us, Paul Cooper from Oahu. Paul, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, stoked to be here.
And you're in the Outer Banks.
But you're
from Hawaii.
Yeah.
Let's get into it. Why are you here?
I'm here. I'm hanging out with my good friend Will. We're doing some shooting for that, and I love it out here. I've been out here maybe, it was probably like 24 years ago.
Okay.
I was out here for the first time.
Yep.
I used to be a professional boogie boarder, so I was here for the contest in Virginia Beach.
Okay.
And a hurricane came through, and once that passed, we just heard that the waves down here were firing. We drove down, and it did not disappoint. It was amazing. So I've been itching to get back here for years, and now to be doing it on a foil. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you, obviously, you're foil driving and foiling at home now too, yeah?
Yeah. I am all in with foil drive and foiling. I've been foiling for about 7 years now, and then been with foil drive for about a year, and I am all in with foil drive, definitely.
The angle that we want to take, like with this interview, because there's a lot of like technical angles that you can take, like to the highest technical degree.
We could spend hours
talking about parts and cables and like board compatibility and all that stuff. But we're going to tack, and we're going the other way on the course, and we want to talk about what the blank is foil drive, and like how does it apply to like people's local break, right? Because I can tell you the first time that I saw somebody foil driving was like right at the end of my street. My neighbor is like possessed with foil driving. That would be the clean way to talk about it. He's absolutely head over heels possessed with foil drive, and I followed him. I like snuck out, got far enough behind him that he didn't see me. Got up on top of the dune and was watching him, and he was getting like the waves were not breaking. There was like no breaking wave as far as you could see, just like lines of swells that were just sort of like feathering in but never breaking. And he had these rides to then going back out, to more rides to going back out. That was like, one of them was like over 5 minutes long.
Oh, I believe it.
And I was like, that is where the sparkle in your eye comes, you know. But it wasn't an efoil, right? And it wasn't like a tiny foil board being towed by a jet ski, which would seem, I don't know, counterproductive, that you have to go get another friend and launch in a marina and go out and have all the other gear. That ends up being an expensive piece of kit to have all that stuff.
Very expensive, tons of extra logistics, tons of extra maintenance.
But this guy's just ripping to the end of the street, no waves, riding, you know, every one of his rides was like 5 minutes long. It was insane. Then I started to understand it. So I think there's a lot of surfers here after you being here for a week and edging into some of those sessions. Like last Friday, I don't even think people kind of even understood what was happening while it was happening. So let's just boil it down to like the prime root of what's going on.
Yeah, so like you said, people are like, oh, is it an efoil? Is it a regular foil? And it's somewhere in between. So it kind of takes the power aspect of an efoil and then combines that with the surfing aspect of regular foiling. And that's why I gravitated towards it a lot, because I've efoiled before, and it's a lot of fun. It's good to go on flat water and things like that, but it does get a little mundane for me because I come from a surfing background.
Okay.
So I like to be in waves, and when I'm in the waves, I want to be able to do it as high performance as I possibly can. And you can't really do that with an efoil. But with this, you take the motoring part that gets you into waves that you wouldn't normally catch. It gets you motoring out to spots that you normally couldn't get to, or if you were able to pump to somewhere that far, once you get there, you're so exhausted that you can't even surf the wave, foil the wave that you want, because you're just recuperating. So what this does is it just combines all those two, and then you're able to, surf as hard as you want to. The little bit of extra weight, for me personally, I've gotten used to it, so I love it. I just enjoy it so much. So so coming from a more traditional foiling background, combining it with the motor, it just opens up so many different spots and different ways to foil these days.
So again, taking the angle, like talking for my friends, right? Like on Friday afternoon, how does this differ from an efoil? Because again, like a lot of them were just like, there was this guy out there, he was foiling, he was just killing it, but yet a lot of them didn't understand how you were just motoring straight out. So how does this whole setup differ from an efoil?
I guess the main difference between an efoil and this, one would be the weight efoils are ranging. There's some lighter weighted efoils now, but you're looking at about 60 pounds. This one's about 10, maybe, give or take, whichever setup you have. And then the placement of the motor is kind of where it's different too. In efoil, it's going to be really low next to the foil. It has more drive, and it's always powered, always motored, but then it's always dragging. So what we do with this is we have it a little bit closer to the board, so you're motoring enough to kind of efoil, but then when you're ready to surf, you lift that motor out, and then it's normal. You're just foiling how you normally foil.
Like as if this thing wasn't on there at all.
Yeah. So like what those guys were seeing on Friday, and it was pretty tricky too, like, because there was some, good top to bottom waves that they were catching on the inside, but there was the outer breaks. That's what I was trying to get into. Once I'm popped up and then I'm motoring out, I can go anywhere I want, and then once I see, the swell that I want to ride or the wave that I want to ride, I just turn into it, pop that motor out, and then it's normal foiling from there on out. So.
And what's the size on this board? Because this looks pretty small.
So this is a 4.3. It's just under 19 inches wide, and it's 25 liters.
Okay.
So it's small, and I'm heavy. I'm like well over 200 pounds right now, so it's a tiny board. But because we're powered, I'm able to, get it going, get it started, and then because it's small and thin, like, it surfs at such a high level, and that's what I want. So,
so like for prone, like if you're paddling in, like what would be your paddling foil board?
It wouldn't be this small. Yeah. It would be probably in the 30 to 34, 33 liter range. Maybe about the same size as far as dimensions, but yeah, I would definitely need a lot more foam just to float me. But because I have the motor, literage isn't as important, because once you're moving and planing, then it'll pop up no problem.
I think a lot of people, again, like from the surfer's perspective, right, expect you to paddle into a wave and then maybe use the motor to help you get into that wave. You're doing that.
I'm still doing that because I ride such small stuff. I'm not able to do it just on flat water. Most guys who do it, though, they have a little bit bigger board, a little bit bigger foil. And I can do it too if I ride a little bigger board and a little bit bigger foil. I'm able to just anywhere I want pop up and get on foil. But I actually do need a little bit of a wave
because the board and the foil are so small.
Because the board and foil is so small. I mean, it could be literally like this big though, but as long as it's like a little steep and gets that board kind of planing and started, then I can pop up no problem.
And when you're up on the wave, the motor's coming out of the water, so it's pure foil.
Pure foil.
Are you adjusting any of the components because of that? Like, are you using different mass, different fuse, like different foil sizes, tail sizes, or is that the same as if you were prone foiling or toe foiling?
It's pretty much the same as if I was just regular prone foiling. Also positioning too, whenever I get asked like, oh, do I need to move this to kind of accommodate for it? I always tell people, no, you start exactly where you would ride it normally. And what you would ride normally, that's kind of where you want to start with it. And then take it from there. If you find things are a little bit harder or difficult, then you can adjust it from there. But to me, the foil drive is so balanced that it's something that you throw on to what you're already using and where you're already existing. So yeah.
Okay. And so you need, at this size, like both board and foil, you need a little bit of a wave to chip in, like with the assistance of the motor.
Yeah. I definitely can't do it in standing still flat water. I need a little bit of a push, and like I said, not much, just a little bit, and then once I get the board sort of moving, and then I'm up and flying. So
like in our typical like small wind-blown, barely breaking to not breaking waves, once you get that first ride, then you're up and rolling, right?
Yeah, if I don't fall, I'll be up the whole time until I run out of battery, so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's actually a great segue to batteries. What's the typical length on a battery? Like, what sort of battery life are you getting out of a battery?
So I'm running the bigger battery with the max. So that's a max power battery. I typically get about 45 minutes to a little over an hour, and that's with some pretty heavy duty motoring. That's with some wave riding in between, but I'm definitely motoring a lot, in between. So to get like about an hour with that is pretty good. Like if I was out there and I was just like, oh, I'll wait till I catch a wave or anything, I could be out there for hours, yeah.
But in an hour, like the way that you're riding, you're probably you're ready to come in.
Oh yeah.
After an hour.
No, I'm exhausted.
I mean, that's not like an hour of surfing where you sit for 45 minutes.
It's not even
and maybe surf and paddle for 15.
No way. No, I'm like nonstop on my feet, either motoring out, swooping into waves. I don't like coming down because it is so much for me to pop it back up.
Yep.
So I'll purposefully stay on foil, look for any little bump as, like an intermediary bump just to stay on foils, conserve a little bit of battery until I see something way out the back. And I'll go way, way out to swoop in because we can get in so early with the foil. And then once I'm in, I'm cruising.
Let's talk about travel batteries because I keep hearing about travel batteries. You hearing about travel batteries?
Yeah. Well, I've been bugged about travel batteries and Foil Drive's been bugged about travel batteries because it's been a hot topic for months now. And then just recently at AWSI over at Hood River, they actually had the travel batteries there. So the long awaited...
Did they travel with them? That's a great question. Did they travel with the travel batteries these to show like the travel batteries?
I think these were like the final prototypes. So
okay.
But they were there physically seen, But yeah, they look really, really cool. It's gonna definitely open up a lot of doors for people who want to take these things with them.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm excited. I can't wait to get some.
So in surfing, they have travel boards, right? Like, oh, this could be a great travel board. Explain to us what a travel battery is and how it gets around the airline restrictions of flying with these things.
Yeah, so what it is that airlines have a certain limit to the size of the batteries. And I guess if you have a battery that's between 100 and 160, anything over 160, whatever, measurement is a no-go for planes. All the batteries, even the smallest ones that currently are with Foil Drive Gen 2, are all over 160. So there was no option to travel with any of the batteries. Now what they've done is they've actually broken the batteries up into different sizes, and then you plug them together and then it'll fit in the unit together.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they basically found a loophole to break it down, get it below that threshold.
You just put them in little chunks, Lego it together, and then you're styling.
And then tell us what you did about batteries here, like because you flew from Oahu here to Cape Hatteras.
So with all the trips that I've been taking, I have to arrange or find somebody who has batteries, and luckily you guys here at Real were able to let me borrow some batteries while I was here this week, which was really cool.
We're gonna show you. We're gonna show.
I came.
This is how you get batteries, right? Is you bring this kind of Hawaiian aloha here. You bring the Island Princess Macadamia Popcorn Crunch and the Island Princess. I don't know. These are like kind of malted, dusted, crazy chocolate balls or something like that. But anyway, so you're rolling in here big time, man. We appreciate it, Paul. We really appreciate all the insight on it. There's so many different ways that you look at Foil Drive, but we really wanted to boil it down, and explain to people what's going on. I mean, what a huge departure, like from at this level of performance, like you would have to have a ski. You'd have to have a ski, you'd have to have another person, you'd have to launch out of a marina and go around out an inlet and, all this other crazy stuff. But you're able to just rip it off the side of the road and go.
I mean, that's the huge enticing thing for me with it. I have a jet ski and it's, collecting cobwebs at the moment, unfortunately, but it's like to have this, to be able to go kind of wherever you want and just to be in certain places that you normally wouldn't look at. Like when I'm driving through different parts of, when I'm at home or even here, I'm like, oh, that's a foil drivable wave. And you would never even look at that.
Right.
It would be a nothing wave, but you just start seeing these things and you seeing all these opportunities. And, with crowds getting really bad and things like that, like I'm just so attracted to, going out on my own, finding different peaks that nobody's ever surfing and just like having the time of my life.
Paul, let's talk about downwinding. What we're seeing and experiencing, like with our staff and everything, that like Foil Drive is the cheat code for getting into downwinding. Like a lot of people like that couldn't do it now can do it. Or there's also another side of it is looking at it as a way to like up the performance level, right?
Yeah.
Rather than riding giant boards and giant foils, like you can ride smaller gear. Talk about your experience mixing up the Foil Drive with downwinding.
Yeah, so I don't always like to say cheat code because like I look at it as I want to ride you know, the same board that I'm riding in waves on a downwind. And you know, you can do things like chip in, but then if you're out in the middle of the ocean, you drop, you're screwed. You know, so with the foil drive, it just opens all of that up. I love it. I love downwinding with the foil drive and being able to ride small stuff. It's also can be a cheat code because for guys that are just getting into it, you use maybe a little bit bigger foil, a little bit bigger board. And then what it does is you're not so stressed about the pop-up. I know a lot of guys who are really stressed about the pop-up and they get into downwinding and they don't do any downwind. They basically paddle for miles and miles and miles. So what this can do is it can allow you to take that pop-up out of it, you're up, and then you can get into bump reading, which is what we're all out there for. We're out there to glide on bumps, read bumps, and do all of that. So once you kind of take that fear of not being able to pop up out, you know, the foil drive kind of fills that gap. And then later, if you want to work on pop-ups, take the foil drive out. But then it's like once you're up, you're good. You know? So you learn how to do all of that, and then you get down to those things. Or like me, I just ride small stuff, and then I'm out there, you know, with a board like this in downwinding conditions.
Yeah, which has got to be a lot more fun.
Oh, it's so
than
fun.
the huge boards on the huge floors.
Yeah, I was just in at the Gorge for 2 weeks prior to this, and I've been riding this same setup the whole time. And
which is micro for downwinding.
Yeah, totally, but so much fun, so much fun.
Cool. Thank you so much for joining us, Paul. If any of you out there have any questions about foil drive or would like to order one for yourself, you can always reach us at the shop, 252-987-6000, or look us up online, realwatersports.com. Thanks for tuning in.